Welcome to Can TV 21 Hotline. Let's talk etiquette. What a wonderful subject. What an awesome subject. We are so pleased to be here with you this evening to bring to you some of the most interesting topics of our lives. And I say that with all sincerity. Etiquette is all-encompassing. But first, let me invite you to call into the show. Our number is 312-738-1060. With that said, I'd like to introduce my very, very special co-host, Madam Georgia Selmon, etiquette maven extraordinary. Welcome back, Georgia.
Thank you.
You were missed last week.
Well, thank you.
You were missed last week. I was all alone by myself without this awesome co-host here.
And I miss being here. As you know, last week my grandson graduated from high school.
Yes.
And I could not miss that at all.
Of course not.
It was an awesome ceremony.
Yes.
And I indeed missed Let's Talk Etiquette show.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
So
wonderful.
my spirit was with you.
Yes. And I preferably would have rather been there at the graduation. But somebody had to show up to do the show.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that responsibility fell on me, and unfortunately I wasn't able to be there for that awesome ceremony.
And we missed you.
That young man, what a young man.
Yes.
Just being there to celebrate with him would have been just so special to me. But I had my obligations and responsibility to be here with you today.
The show must go on.
It must go on. But today is going to be a repeat, so to speak, of last week's topic. Because this thing called citizenship, it is such a impactful, maybe that may be the word, impactful, lifelong, dedicated to this particular culture, this particular society. And as a citizen, you're under contract to adhere to all of the rules and regulations governing this society. So I felt like Miss Selmon felt like she wanted to be able to participate in this subject. So this is why we are back with you today to cover this very impactful subject called citizenship. And it's really, very important. So let me go ahead and put that up on the overhead so that we can get started with the show today. I can go for first. The etiquette of citizenship. Question: is U.S. citizenship a legally binding contract? Yes or no? That's the question we want you to call in to ask about. What do you think about that question? Is it a legally binding contract, your citizenship? Give that some thought. And perhaps you may have never thought about that. But what do you think, though? Right?
Well,
Give you an opportunity to
Okay.
get your input because you weren't here last week.
No. And when you told me about the subject for discussion, I said, wow, I need to be a part of that because I have some input. I would like to have some input. I really do believe that the U.S. citizenship is a legal binding contract. I do. I believe that.
Yeah.
And I think I would start with the birth certificate.
Yes. That's number one. That birth certificate.
Whether we have anything to do with it at that time or not, that kind of legitimize and legalize our presence and our entry into society and into the world.
Yes.
So yeah, it is definitely a binding contract, and it goes with you until your end.
Yes.
Until the end.
Yes.
Until
That birth
your
certificate.
Yes, indeed. So it is binding, and
Yes.
it is. It's a contract that I believe represents who you are.
Yes,
Who you
your
are,
identity.
your identity. And that's before any of us have anything to say about it.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
we don't have anything to say about the name that we're given.
No.
We don't have anything to say about the people who made it all happen.
Nothing. Zero.
So
You're not
it
even
is-
aware of your own existence.
Absolutely. So it is a contract. It's
a contract.
binding, and I think that that is the very first contract
Yes.
that we have.
Bound to.
Are bound to. Absolutely.
Bound to.
Absolutely.
Right. And the interesting thing about that is because what happens is that your parents' citizenship is passed on to you. So that contract your parents have with the government is then passed on to you if you're born within the continental boundaries of the United States. Now, there are some people that live in this country who want to have a child who decide to go out to another country, offshore, to have their child in another society, another country.
Yes.
Because they do not want their child to be bound to an American citizenship contract. So people go all over the world to have children, and those children are unfortunately considered foreigners once they return, because they don't have a legal contract saying that they are a citizen. And what is the other document that's so important to bound you to this contract?
Oh wow. There are several. But
Okay.
your Social Security card.
That's the
I mean,
other
your
part.
Social Security card is definitely it's a small contract, but that number
Yes,
is you.
it's you.
That number is the individual,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
it's another contract.
Yes.
It's a very small contract, but it is a contract. Your medical records.
Yes.
That's another contract.
Yes.
I just recently found my baptismal certificate.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't know how many churches are doing that today, but back when I got baptized for the second time as an adult,
Yes.
my church issued me a baptismal certificate.
To show that you earned or was baptized
Absolutely.
at this day and time,
Absolutely.
and you had this credential as proof.
Absolutely. And you can use that. That's a form of identification. Yes. It's a
Yes.
contract.
Yes. And it's all tied to your citizenship.
Yes.
All of the things you do from birth to death, if you remain in the continental United States or go offshore or to another country, you're still obligated to that contract. Even if you're in Europe or Africa, you're still attached to that contract.
Absolutely.
And it's your identity from birth to death. And the thing that most people, I don't think, really consider about that contract as being legal is the consequences of that contract. Whereas if you go into another country, say Canada, you're not bound to all of the laws governing that country because you're a foreigner. And so those diplomatic relations that we have with, say, Canada involves and entails all of the rights or obligations we have while we're on their soil.
Yes.
And so that's another aspect of how you are bound to this contract.
Your passport.
Yes. You cannot leave the country, right? Unless you walk across the Canadian border.
You can't even go on a cruise,
No.
a 2 or 3 day cruise, unless you have that document.
Yes.
That contract.
That contract, right. And so even there's an excellent example of how you are bound to this contract simply because you have to pass a certain test to receive that passport, right?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say test.
You have to
but
answer questions and provide information.
You
That's
do
what I
have to add, yes, absolutely. It's not something that you just write your name and address down and send in.
Right.
There are questions that's asked on those
Yes.
on that document.
Yes.
So
yes.
it is a form of a contract
Yes.
because it's who you are and all of, what you are, pretty much.
Yes.
So,
And then, too, it gives the government the right to investigate you, to determine whether or not we should, like, for instance, with taxes, say you owe a large sum of money in taxes, and they're concerned about whether you're going to return to pay that obligation.
yes.
So they may question, why are you leaving the United States, and what's your purpose, and when do you plan to return? We have some concerns about you may owe the government a sum of money that they are fearful that you may not return to pay it. So, I mean, you have to get permission, in other words.
Yes.
You have to get permission.
Yes.
And that permission is based on your initial contract, and that's your birth certificate.
When you look at it like that, it's like, yeah, I really do. I really had to get permission. You have to have permission to leave this country.
Yes.
You have to have permission to re-enter this country.
Yes, yes.
And, but is it all relative? Is it relevant?
Yes. Yes.
And I believe it is. I believe those documents are very, very significant.
Absolutely.
And they have a significant purpose.
Yes.
It's an identification of who you are.
Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, it does bind you to all of the obligations that are required of a citizen. And that's, of course, to, obey all the laws, be respectful to authority, and all those other requirements, pay your income tax fairly. All those other requirements that is connected to that document. And so that's where most people do not really understand those obligations. And we're here from the Etiquette Foundation to alert you to two subjects that are not being taught, that should be taught in our public schools, and that of course is etiquette, manners, and morals.
And how is it all relevant to citizenship? Yes,
Right.
yes.
Right. Because definitely, if you're talking about producing great citizens, who understands the laws and their obligations to behave in a certain way that's considered civilized, then you should educate that child or those children as to what those rules involve. Manners, meaning that you know how to present yourself in public in a politeful, respectful manner. You know how to interact with people in a courteous way. And then the other side of manners and morals is the moral side, teaching them about values. And speak about that for a minute.
Well, I kind of like the next bullet point you have here. You want to put it on the overhead? And it says rules governing behavior. Should the rules of social behavior governing American citizenship be taught in the public schools? Now, that's pretty interesting, yes.
Should it be taught?
Yes, teaching the rules of social behavior, manners, and morals in accordance with our citizenship legal obligation should be a requirement to graduate from elementary school.
Right.
And I do agree with this.
Yes.
I really agree with this, because in order to apply for I will just use your passport for example, because at that point, see, when we get our birth certificate, that just naturally automatically comes, and your parents are pretty much responsible for making that document appear and happen. But when we have a caller coming.
Okay.
Let me finish this point, then we'll pick that call up.
Yes.
But should manners and morals be taught in school, and should it be a requirement? And I think so, because when you go to apply for a passport, there's a certain behavior that you have to display without them seeing you.
Right.
You have to have a certain amount of knowledge and information to put on paper to receive that very, very important document. Let's take this next caller.
Yes. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, hello. Yeah, I have something to add about etiquette of citizenship. My wife just came from overseas. She was in Paris for a week, and she realized a lot of things in talking about the etiquette and manners of Parisians. specifically, like there's like she was looking at her phone, looking for directions to go to a restaurant. She didn't realize that she was standing right at the apron of someone's driveway.
Okay.
Right? And this gentleman patiently waited for her to finish what she had to do, find her directions, and continue walking. He didn't beep. He didn't yell at her. He didn't do anything of that notion. He just was like, "Hey, okay, I'll wait for you to finish. I'm going to be a nice gentleman about it." And he went on his way. And she was so embarrassed that she let him, just sit there for probably 45 seconds to a minute and a half.
Yes.
But he didn't care. And so that was something that really struck her. And the other thing is what struck her, that she really could tell who was American when she went to Paris in terms of manners, in terms of the like it's all about me.
Yes.
And what I need.
Right.
And she thought that it was really something to behold. And so that's what one of the many things that she took from the trip. It's the first time she's been overseas.
Yes.
And she's kind of embarrassed a little bit about what she
Yes.
saw in terms of how certain people act in terms of their
Yes.
manners, in public.
Yes. Great situation there is to find her in and understand the difference in how people's cultures affect their etiquette skills.
Absolutely.
And their social behavior skills.
Yes.
And that's a wonderful example. In fact, for a short period, the Etiquette Foundation had an outstanding teacher who taught international protocol, knowing what to do in Paris or in Germany, how to behave, those kind of subtleties that is so important for you to show respect.
Yes.
Technically, that's what you're doing. You're showing respect for someone else's culture and the manners involved with that culture. So I would advise anyone listening, I'm certain several schools in the Chicagoland area who can actually teach you if you're going to Japan or you're going to China, or you're going to Russia, wherever you may be going, that there are a set of rules that would be very, very helpful for you to go ahead and do some research on and get the basics.
Absolutely.
So that you can show that you appreciate this culture and their rules are important.
And their rules are different. A lot of their
thank
rules.
You, caller.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes.
And rules are different.
Yeah, they are.
From country to country, from place to place.
Yes.
The rules are different. And the more you know about your own rules.
Yeah, you first have to have appreciation for your own rules.
Absolutely. The more we teach the rules that exist within our country,
Culture, yes.
and our culture and in our immediate surroundings and abroad,
yes.
the better we are as human beings.
Absolutely, and as citizens as well.
Yes.
Absolutely. Such a great point. And the educational part of it to us is critical. Teaching our young people to have values, how to respect one another, how to treat one another. Yeah, how to just be great human beings, without all of this negativism and degeneracy that we often see out in society. I understand math is important, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But what is more important is teach that child how to have some good manners.
Yes. Absolutely.
How to be civilized. And if you can do that, math will be in its natural place. But those are key subjects that is so important so that they can really, truly honor that citizenship that they have. Is there another area on there you wanted to try to touch on?
Yeah.
Because we only have 5 minutes. I saw the sign go
Yeah,
up.
because, here it says, because of the consequences.
Let me put it on the overhead.
Okay,
go
because of the consequences for violating a civic or criminal rule law governed by its citizens' contractual relations with the U.S. government could be some serious consequences. Could be very serious consequences. And that's why it's so important that we begin to look at some of this, the manners and morals, and the idea of etiquette education being a part of the educational development of our young people.
Yes.
Because there are serious consequences.
They are.
When some of these manners and morals are not taught and kids are not adhering to them,
Yes.
and something very minor, a very minor situation
Yes.
can be a very costly outcome.
Very.
and a very detrimental outcome.
Absolutely.
We must find a way to incorporate some of this information into our school systems.
Yes. On a regular basis.
Absolutely.
On a regular basis. This is not a subject you just can take one semester and you have it all down to a science. You have to learn how to live the life.
Live it.
And then once you start living and behaving in a certain manner, it enhances your values, your presence, your humanity in a way that you won't be able to do it, I don't think, any other way. And it's a simple system. It's not like it's complicated. It can't be learned, but it's about the practice of it.
Yes.
That's so important.
And it's honoring the contract.
Honoring the contract.
Honoring who you are.
Yes.
It's honoring that birth certificate with both parents' name on it.
Yes.
I mean, to me, it's not rocket scientist information. It's it's fundamental. And I think that, our school systems, our parents, our community centers, any and everyone that has some relationships with our young people need to find out and need to get a hold to the etiquette information and incorporate it into their daily plan.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And the reason we think the school is the ideal institution for it, because now you have the opportunity for all of the children to have one set of rules to learn. I know you're going to teach it at home, but regardless, that's a community. That school, that classroom is a community of individuals. And they need to know how to interact with one another in a civil way. And unless they have this information and it's all given to them at the same time over the same number of years, then they can inculcate that into their behavior, and suddenly you don't even think about it anymore. You just simply behave in a certain way.
Exactly.
And it's so important for us to get back to those basic values, because where are we going now? Where's society going now? You see it on TV every day.
Yes.
This is the consequences of this not being taught.
Yes.
You see? So
Yes.
it's not a pretty picture going forward, and you see what's happening. People don't have a value system that relates to who they are in relationship to this contract.
Yes.
See? And so we end up with all the kind of behavior
Crime.
and crimes and all those other degenerate kinds of behaviors out here. It's about you, it's about family, it's about community, and we all working together
Yes.
to create a better life for everybody.
Yes.
And that means you don't involve yourself in illegal activities or do crazy things just for the joy of it and hurt or injure or kill someone. And then the time you're going to spend incarcerated, certainly not worth it.
Or in your grave.
Right. So let's finish up one final point. I'll leave it up to you. Would you like to cover something there?
Oh, let's see.
Before we kicked off the air?
Well, I think you have here, if a citizen violates a civic or criminal law and is judged to be guilty, they are punished either by a monetary fine or removal from society and imprisoned for the duration of time as determined by the state or federal law. Is it worth it?
The contract has serious consequences. If you were a foreigner, there are certain rules in terms of our legal system they can't apply to you because you're not on the contract in this country.
But guess what? When I went out of the country to South America, before we left, before the fellowship group that I was a part of, before we left going, we were instructed certain behaviors, certain rules that we needed to know going to that area.
Yes.
And it was taught. We were taught.
Yes.
Certain mannerisms, certain behavior.
Yes.
And it was taught.
Yes.
And we had to adhere to it.
And one of the wonderful things about that is because you're in another country, you represent the United States.
Yes.
And your behavior reflects on all of us. So if you
True,
go there
true.
just doing some stupid, illegal, unconscionable things, then you're going to have a negative reflection on myself and every
Absolutely.
other American that happens to come to that country. So,
And what we do here may be offensive. What we do there.
yes. And we don't think it's nothing
We don't
wrong
think
with
it's
it.
because it's a commonality.
Yes,
It's a
yes.
custom.
Yes.
It's a manner
Yes.
that's acceptable here in our country.
Yes,
But it
yes.
may be offensive in another country.
That's true.
So manners and morals, okay?
Manners do
and
count.
morals,
Do.
it's
Yes.
something that we have to all adhere to regardless to
absolutely.
where we are.
Right. And then one other thing about etiquette is that it allows you to engage with another person in a way that makes that relationship or that interaction more likely to be a peaceful issue resolved based on those social skills that you have, those language skills that you have. But it looks like we have to.
We have to wrap it up.
Oh,
Yes.
Well, here,
have to wrap it up.
let me give you that information how to contact us.
Yes.
So that if you choose to reach out, please do so. We look forward to hearing from you. You can contact us at 312-473-2942, or you can email us. We prefer email because that's a great way for us to be able to respond to you. And that email address is info@efoi.org. info@efoi.org. So, well, lady, it's an end to this show.
Yes.
In which you do the Etiquette Foundation of Illinois the honors of closing the show and saying
Absolutely.
goodbye. Wonderful.
Honor the contracts that you have.
Yes.
Honor your contracts, your birth certificate. Make that piece of document, your social security card, any document that represent you, honor it with the behavior that you can be proud of.
Well said. And with that, we'll close the show out and look forward to next week with another awesome subject for you as well. Have a great evening.